Justin Bieber just made $10 million for a 90-minute performance. He just broke Coachella's all-time pay record of a 27-year festival, surpassing artists like Beyonce, Ariana Grande, The Weeknd. And he also moved over $5 million in merchandise in a single weekend, which is completely unheard of. All after 4 years away from the stage completely, 2 health crises, and a career that most of the music industry had started to quietly just write off completely. I'm a financial planner, and I wanted to share with you what I see when I look at Bieberchella. This isn't a music story. This is a story about the power of compounding growth. Now, when we talk about compounding growth, most often I'm talking about money or the stock market, but compounding growth has many different places in our life. We can compound things like our time, our effort, our skills, our career, our brand, our identity. Anything that requires consistent effort and output over a course of time compounds for us. And this story about Justin Bieber and his Coachella performance, I think, is way more deep and meaningful than most people can see. Because here's what a lot of the headlines miss. The $10 million is not the story itself. The story is the 15-year framework and dedication and time and effort that Justin Bieber has put in over that entire time to make a $10 million weekend possible for him. And that framework applies directly to how we build wealth. By the end of this video, you're gonna look at compounding growth differently than you do right now. So let's get into it. Let's talk about some Bieberchella numbers. Because before anything else, I want to touch on the scale of what just happened. This is not just a comeback that we're talking about. This is a record-setting financial event. So let's look at the numbers here. His Coachella performance fee was $10 million, the highest in the 27-year festival history. Previous record holders are Beyonce in 2018 for $8 million and The Weeknd in 2022 for $8.5 million. His Skylark merch brand sold over $5 million in sales in just weekend one alone. On April 12th, streaming day, 24.7 million streams, which is the biggest since the Swag album launch. Also, Swag plus Swag 2 combined over 1 billion streams on Spotify and over 1 million albums sold globally. And lastly, in 2025, his net worth sat around $200 million. But here's also one other stat that almost nobody covered that I've seen. He negotiated his Coachella deal on his own without an agent at all, which means he saved hundreds of thousands of dollars in possible commissions that he would have had to pay that agent. So what this is showing, this is not just a footnote. This shows us that he's making decisions reflecting a completely different mindset on how he views his worth, his money, how he's getting paid. And there's a real story to be told about that. Here's what I want you to understand about how Bieber got this $10 million weekend in the first place. Coachella did not create this result. Coachella just happened to be the moment that his 15 years of dedicated compounding effort finally paid out. Think about what compounding interest is just from a very basic standpoint. Compounding interest reflects the fact that time and time again, month after month, year after year, we're making consistent deposits to our investment account. But in the beginning, the growth and the benefit of the compounding interest can feel nearly invisible. It's very hard to see, which makes it very hard for a lot of people to continue putting in that effort. But it is exactly at those points in time, those early years, that compounding impact is the most important because it's the hardest part to get through. You can't see it working, but it's accumulating underneath the surface. And at some point, the returns start to actually dwarf the original deposits. That's where the power of compounding really starts to come into play. And it works the exact same with a brand, a career, really anything that we're putting effort into over a period of time. So let's take a look at Bieber's compounding timeline. So in 2008, Justin Bieber started posting YouTube covers at the age of 13 in Ontario with zero audience, zero money, just getting the reps in time and time again. In 2009, Usher finally signed him, which was the first visible return on years of invisible compound. By 2010, Baby drops, and that became one of the most streamed songs in YouTube history at the time. Between 2012 and 2022, he went on global tours, consecutive album cycles, 292 million Instagram followers. The deposits keep going in to his compounding growth. Between 2022 and 2025, he had a couple health crises, canceled the world tour, and years away from the stage. But then in July of 2025, Swag drops as a surprise, and 74 million streams opening weekend dominates Spotify globally. What people don't realize is those 4 years away from the stage were not the opposite of compounding. It was actually the exact definition of compounding. But this was compounding interest on something even more valuable than streams. We're talking about compounding on his mental health, his clarity, his authentic identity, trying to find who he actually is and who he wanted to become as a man and as an artist. And he came back different. And the market paid him differently for it. The highest paid single performance fee in the festival history. Now, if as a human being, you can't sit back and really appreciate that, because we have all been through a lot of things in our life, and life does not seem to be fair a lot of the time. But we pick ourselves back up and we redefine who we are. And that's what he did. And I have a lot of respect for that, especially coming from someone myself. I've been to a low place in my life through a divorce, a very toxic business breakup, a lot of trauma. And I can appreciate finding myself and putting in the time and effort to do that and loving myself. And I really respect that about what he did here. And I'll be honest, when I first watched the performance, I was like a lot of people. I thought it was lazy. I didn't fully understand what he was doing. But when I really took a step back, I really appreciate this moment. Now, the financial parallel here is that when you stop making withdrawals from your investment account and just let it sit, it grows faster. When Bieber stopped chasing the noise and the fame and he started to actually rebuild, his brand grew even quicker. The pause was not a setback by any means. The pause was a strategy to slingshot him forward in his business and his career, even if he didn't know it at the time. And that's one of the most powerful things I teach in my wealth execution program for my higher income earners, is understanding that as that gap continues to grow between your income and your current expenses, we want to make sure that we have a system in place for every dollar, and every single dollar has a job and a purpose for your future and for what you're building in your life. Unfortunately, a lot of people get stuck in this trap of making more money, and then their lifestyle creep and the expenses go up with it. And that's one of the worst mistakes we can make when we're trying to build wealth. If you're sitting there thinking, I make great money and I don't know what the heck I'm doing, I don't have a system, I'm probably making a lot of expensive mistakes, please look at the link in the description and apply for my wealth execution program. And I would love to set up a time to talk. Let's talk about the 3 compounding lessons from Bieberchella. Number 1, and this is extremely important, consistency compounds before you can see it. It is the number 1 reason why people give up on investing or saving or just putting in that consistent effort, because return on investment of time is very hard, if not impossible to see, because it's invisible. Justin Bieber has been making deposits that seemed invisible for many, many years, literally since he was 13 years old. But by Coachella of 2026, he has 292 million Instagram followers, 200 billion career streams, and 150 million plus albums sold. None of that would be possible without the early years of invisible compounding. That is one of the number 1 takeaways that I want you to remember here, because that's exactly how the earlier stage of building wealth works. If you start by saving or investing $500 a month into your portfolio, the market's going up and down, you don't really actually see the impacts or the benefits of the stock market growing, because there just hasn't been enough time to accumulate the money in there for you to really see it. But that's exactly what the system is all about, the consistent time and effort of investing and saving money every single month towards your future. Again, the later years of compounding growth you can't benefit from without the earlier years of that invisible growth. Justin Bieber didn't quit when it looked like nothing was happening. He kept going, and that's exactly what you should do when it comes to your wealth and your money. Lesson number 2, ownership compounds, income does not. Here's the financial detail that matters the most, and almost nobody covered it. Again, I mentioned this before, Bieber negotiated his own Coachella deal. No agent, no commissions, full take-home pay for what he charged. He owns his fashion line, Skylark, outright. Not licensed to a label, fully his equity. If you remember, his merch company sold over $5 million in merch in just weekend 1 alone. 100% of that brand equity belongs to him. Also, you may know that his wife, Hailey, she sold her skincare brand to e.l.f. Beauty for $1 billion. So we can see a common theme here, that money and wealth at this level of the compounding effect doesn't come from physically trading time for money or income. It comes from the things that work in your sleep. Real estate income, building wealth through real estate, owning small businesses or investing in small businesses, getting creative and thinking outside the box with how your money can work for you. We want to be thinking ownership, okay? Wealthy people build assets. Everyone else builds expenses. Ownership is where the compounding lives. And the number 3, also so important, is that authenticity compounds where performance fades. I really love this one because I can relate to it so deeply. But Justin Bieber's Coachella performance was one of the most stripped back performances of the festival's modern history. There were no backup dancers, not a lot of lights, no pyro, not a lot of flashy things happening, just him up there, his authentic self, showing the world that he has come back to himself. And honestly, I get goosebumps just thinking about it. How beautiful is that? If you actually think about that, somebody who was at a very low point in his life, was very lost, he was able to come back and find himself and put in the work and look at where he's at now. That is such an inspiration, and I really look up to him for that. And despite critics saying it was a lazy or boring performance, it was the most Googled performance in Coachella history, and the 125,000 people that were there live did not feel like they were shortchanged whatsoever. They felt his emotion, they felt his authenticity, and that's how you build a brand. That's how you build a story that people want to go along the ride with you for. And that's what it's all about. And when we apply this to our money, you know, we can try to invest in the hottest funds or companies right now and kind of fake our strong portfolio for a quarter, but you cannot fake real wealth for a full decade. Right? Wealth is what's going on behind the scenes. And you can absolutely perform financial confidence or make it seem like you have it all together. But the real clarity comes in knowing your numbers and your plan and understanding what it's taking to compound that into your financial freedom. Here is my real takeaway from Bieberchella, and not as a fan, but as someone who's building wealth. Justin Bieber is 32 years old and he started at the age of 13. That is 19 years of compounding effort and deposits into his craft, his brand, his voice, his identity, and eventually his financial independence. The $10 million weekend didn't happen because he got lucky at Coachella. It happened because he spent 19 years making these kind of deposits that plenty of us could see and many deposits that we could never see. And that's the part that should actually matter to you. You don't need a $200 million net worth to apply the same framework to your life. You need the same principles, consistent deposits over time, willingness to not give up, and understand the importance of ownership over income where possible. And also have authentic clarity about what you're building. And lastly, the patience to let the early years do their invisible work before you start seeing the rewards. The inflection point will come, but only for the people who stay consistent long enough to reach it. Most people quit in year 3 of a 10-year compounding curve. So don't give up. Bieber didn't, and you don't have to either. What Justin Bieber just built over the last 15 years and what he accomplished at Coachella is one of the most inspiring stories, to be honest, that I think that we've seen all year. It's something that we can look up to, it's something that we can learn from, and I highly recommend that you start to look at what he has done and understand these principles and how you can apply these to your own life. Now, if this video helped you at all, please subscribe to my channel. I am a newer YouTube channel, but I am not going away anytime soon. I love building these videos to help you think about money in different ways and make better financial decisions. Also, if this was helpful, stay tuned for the next video where I go into detail about how to understand the difference between good and bad debt and how to use good debt to build wealth and what metrics you should be considering before you decide to use good debt to purchase your next cash flowing producing asset.